The FBI has struck back against President Trump by releasing files related to a racial discrimination lawsuit against him and his father from the 1970s. Now, Politico has reported that the FBI recently released 400 pages of records on an investigation the Bureau conducted in the 1970s into alleged racial discrimination in the rental apartments from President Donald Trump's real estate company. So this is interesting because we already knew a few stories about this, but this is more of a big document dump. And of course, there's a reason for this. And we'll get to that. Now, what's in those files? And why release them? Well, the answer to that is the files detail dozens of interviews the Bureau conducted with Trump building tenants, management, and employees seeking indications that minority tenants were basically steered away from different housing complexes. Well, why would they be steered away? Well, it turns out Fred Trump, not exactly a huge fan of minorities. No, of course not. Now, most of those interviewed actually said that they were not aware of any discrimination. However, some of the records do recount the stories of black rental applicants who said that they were told there were no apartments available, i.e. no vacancy, while white people sent to check on those same apartments were offered leases. Oh, imagine that. So you're a black person, you go and you try to get an apartment that Donald Trump or Fred Trump had managed. No, look, no vacancy. Sorry, man, we ain't got no room for you. Oh, and hey, nice white folks, go ahead. We got a room right for you. We got an apartment. Well, there you go. That would seem to be an example of racial discrimination. Now, the records posted on the FBI's Freedom of Information Act website include a 1974 interview with a former doorman at a Trump building in Brooklyn. Now, this is fascinating. A supervisor told me that if a black person came to 2650 Ocean Parkway and inquired about an apartment for rent, and and this, of course, one of the issues with this is that there are a lot of, it's heavily redacted, so it doesn't actually say the name of that manager, was not there at the time, that I should tell him that the rent was twice as much as it really was, in order that he could not afford the apartment. Again, that seems like a racist policy. Black guy comes up and wants an apartment, you either tell him, well, it's not, we don't have any vacancies, or, oh man, this is really expensive. I don't think you can afford this. Obvious racist policy. And of course it goes to the stereotype, well, that black people, they can't afford that anyway. So we'll hike that price up and make sure that they can't afford it, even if they could afford a regular apartment at a regular price. Now, what would be funny is that I wonder if there were those that had the money and they said, oh, don't worry, I got that. No, I got that money, bruh. Wonder what their faces would look like. I would just want to see that. I would just want to see that. Now, where do these documents come from? Well, many of the accounts of the discrimination appear to have originated with the National Urban League, which relayed the information to the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. Some of those complaints are barely legible, and many of the records are heavily redacted. So again, I'm pointing out some of the problems with this. It would be nice if it weren't so heavily redacted. Nonetheless, you can pick out certain pieces of this and assemble a picture of what this whole thing looked like. And of course, there is other stories and there's other information that has come out from people that have actually filed these lawsuits against the Trump real estate empire. For example, in October 1973, the Civil Rights Division filed a lawsuit against Trump Management Company, Donald Trump and his father, Fred Trump, alleging that African Americans and Puerto Ricans were systematically excluded from the apartments. The Trumps responded in Trump fashion with a $100 million countersuit, accusing the government of defamation. Of course. Great. Donald Trump denied any racial discrimination, but said that managers tried to weed out certain types of tenants. He said, quote, in his 1987 book, "What we didn't do was rent to welfare cases, white or black." You know the assumption back in the 1980s, right? The welfare queens started by Reagan. No, we don't want to rent to those welfare queens, We don't want to do that. It seems a little racist again. Just saying. We don't want to rent to those people. And of course, that in itself was called out as BS from people who weren't on welfare, who could afford those apartments but were not allowed to rent anyway. New York Times, of course, during the election ran a story on Maxine Brown. Now, Maxine Brown at the time was a 33-year-old nurse who applied for one of Fred Trump's apartments. Now, she filled out what the rental agent remembers as, quote, a beautiful application. And this is coming from the guy who was there, Stanley Leibowitz, who was a rental agent. Now, when Mr. Leibowitz talked to his boss, Fred Trump, and asked him, hey, what do I do with this application? I mean, you know, it's a black woman, but look at the references. She got the money, no welfare, nothing like that. So what do I do? Well, Fred Trump said, reportedly, take the application, put it in a drawer, and leave it there. Basically saying, hey, man, if I could tell you to put it in the circular file, but that might be a bit too much. Just put it in the drawer. Let's forget about it. I don't want to rent to that person. Oh, boy. Here we go. Now, there's another one. There's a woman named Agnes Bunn. Now, she recalled hearing in early 1970 about a vacant Trump apartment in another part of Queens from a white friend who lived at the same building. So, hey man, we do got an open apartment here, so why don't you move in? Okay, I'll go check it out. Now, she went by, inquired about an apartment, and was told that there were no vacancies. In fact, Ms. Bunn said, the super came out and stood there until I left the property. You are not welcome here. Huh. Not only that, but in 1969, a young black couple, Haywood and Reno Cash, sued after being denied a home in Cincinnati at one of the first projects in which Donald Trump, fresh out of college, played an active role. Mr. Cash was reportedly rejected by the Trump's rental agent, according to court records and notes kept by the Housing Opportunities Made Equal of Cincinnati, which sent in white testers posing as a young couple while Mr. Cash waited in the car. Now, this is fascinating. After the agent, Irving Wolper, offered the testers an apartment. Remember, they sent in this white family, these two white people, to go in and see, like, hey, can we get an apartment here? Now, they were using the application of the black couple. Everything looked fine. And, you know, white couple, so they're like, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll offer you an apartment. Now, after they did that, they brought in Mr. Cash, who was the real applicant. When they did that, Mr. Wolper reportedly grew furious, shoving them out of the office and calling the young female tester, Maggie Durham, a, quote, nigger lover, according to court records. Oh, boy. Miss Durham recalled recently, to this day, I have not forgotten the fury in his voice and in his face, adding that she also remembered him calling her, quote, a traitor to the race. So this is the stuff that's in the documents that they were released, and in these in these court filings related to this. Now, in response to Trump's and their company had entered into a consent decree settling the litigation in 1975. The agreement contained no admission of wrongdoing, but required the Trump firm to institute a series of safeguards to make sure apartments were rented without regard to race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So that's what we have, right? Now, the question is, this did happen in the past, so why release it now? Well, I think it's fairly obvious why they released it. The intelligence agencies are at war with Donald Trump. Now, look, I don't disagree in how they're doing it, but come on, guys. A little late to the party. Why not do this during the primary? Why not do this during the general election? Oh, right, because Hillary Clinton was going to win. Or so everybody thought. Ridiculous, man. It's not like they didn't have these files and all this stuff on Donald Trump lying around. What they did is that they chose not to use these files. If you were so afraid of Donald Trump, why didn't you bring out this intelligence? Why? Why keep it in your back pocket until now? Come on. Come on. No, instead, Comey told a bullshit lie that they were not reopening the investigation into Hillary's emails. Which, again, that's a lie because they actually weren't opening an investigation. And look, don't get me wrong. The emails didn't decide the election. Comey didn't decide the election. I'm not saying that at all. Okay? The emails, WikiLeaks didn't decide this election. None of that decided the election. You know what decided the election? Hillary Clinton. She beat herself. Okay? She was a bad candidate, but, and look, she was a terrible candidate. She didn't talk to people in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. She was she was very untrustworthy. All that stuff. 100% correct. But seriously, none of this, any of the emails, nothing. That's not what brought her down. So again, I want to keep making that clear so that I don't get taken out of context somewhere. But when it comes to Trump, when they knew all this stuff, and maybe this wouldn't have hurt him either, but it would have been nice if they had come out. Okay? If you keep it under wraps until now, it seems a little fucking hypocritical to me. It is clear that the intelligence community is now out to destroy Trump. And I know that. The CIA, the FBI, all that, they do have a vested interest in defeating Trump. I get that. Because they want somebody who in there who's establishment friendly. And look, Trump is establishment friendly, but he's very hard to control unless you are good at manipulating him, and which Steve Bannon absolutely is. But again, the intelligence community, they want him gone. Now, whatever happens going forward with that, they continue to release more of these documents, etc., etc. Look, whatever happens, as I said, we don't know what's going to go on. We don't know what's going to happen. But I'm thinking that we're going to see the ramifications for a long, long time going into the future. I mean, I don't know if we've ever had this happen before, but the intelligence community is trying to take down a sitting president. Now, I don't like Trump, and I certainly don't like what's been revealed here about him. But again, we're in uncharted territory, guys. This is unprecedented, and we're seeing an active administration going after its own intelligence agencies, and the intelligence agencies going after him, and they're fighting amongst each other. This is not the way government is supposed to work. This is deeply dysfunctional and deeply unprecedented, and I don't know where we're going to go from here. And I know that whatever happens, the full effects of this are not going to be known until well into the future, and that is a little bit scary. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.